we had to tell our parents where we was like 15, 16 years old. So we had to tell our parents where we were at, and they didn't believe us. So just as I was telling my mother what was going on, the radio came on and said, "Congratulations to Disco 3 from Brooklyn for winning the semifinals of the 10-pound album." I said, "That's us right there." She said, "Who the hell is a Disco 3?" I said, "What?" You know, she didn't know nothing about that and all that stuff. So, yeah. So, and the finals were held, I think, like that next Monday at Radio City, and we won the finals. You know.
Did that lead to a record deal?
Yeah, that led to the record deal. Actually, the individual who put it together, Charlie Stetler, who was our manager, it was his label, 10-Pan Apple Records. And we went into the studio. We did a song called Reality. And this song is based off because Flash and the Furious 5 had a huge hit called The Message. And that was the thing for every rapper in New York at that time, to make a song called The Message, a conscience song. So we thought we'd do our rendition of The Message, and we did a song called Reality. It didn't get past our block, so it didn't sell at all. So we had to regroup after that. I think it sold 2,000 copies, and I think the record company bought half of that. So it didn't do anything.
At the time of the record deal, Charles wasn't your manager, was he? And then you eventually...
He became our manager.
Okay, how did he become
right after the contest? He just said, "I'm your manager." Really? Okay. So we signed some papers. He became the manager, and it was a kind of like a, by the way, this is my contest I put together, and the record label is mine, and I'm your manager. So we didn't have time to go get a manager. It was like he was the manager.
So was he also the guy that renamed you guys the Fat Boys?
Yeah, he renamed it. He didn't like the name from the start, so he was looking for ways to find a new name. He kept asking us, "Why don't you guys change that name?" We were like, "No, we're Disco 3, And so once we regrouped and went back in the studio with Kurtis Blow, and he made the whole track Fat Boys. And Fat Boys was a huge hit. That gave him the opportunity to say, "You know what? I'm going to change the name of this group from Disco 3 to Fat Boys." A lot of people didn't like that because they liked the name Disco 3. I know Run DMC was like, "You should have kept the name Disco 3. MCA from Beastie Boys, they loved the name Disco 3 because it was just a basic rap name. And, a lot of people to this day will say, "You guys were better when you were Disco 3 as opposed to Fat Boys." I'm like, "Oh, it's the same thing." It's like,
right.
But, people misconstrue the name Fat Boys, and they think, first thing they think of is some kind of funny raps. Disco 3 would have been different,
You worked with the legend Kurtis Blow on your first 2 albums. How did that come about, and what did you take away from working with him?
Kurt, well, after Reality didn't sell, the first single, it didn't sell at all. I think it sold like I said, like 2,700. I think it panned out like 2,800 copies. So our manager at the time, Charlie Stetler, he was really, pissed off, thinking this thing was a big waste of time, waste of his time or whatever, and it was a big mistake. So he knew Kurtis Blow already. He knew Kurtis Blow because Kurtis Blow had judged the contest. So he pretty much just reached out to him. And Kurt said, "Yeah, he'll do it." He said he heard of us. He said he knows us from the contest. He wondered what happened to us because he never heard the song that we put out because it was that bad. So he said, "Yeah." So he said, "Yeah, I'll work with them." So when he told us, we thought he was lying. Like, Kurtis Blow, you probably paid him to be at the contest, but he's not going to produce no songs for us. At the time, Kurtis Blow was like looking at Flash and the Furious 5. They was like at the top of the heap. So we walked inside the studio one night, and there's Kurtis Blow sitting there with his, Jerry curls out and, his big K Blow nameplate, get the vest with no shirt on and all that stuff. So we're starstruck. We're like looking at him like, "Oh, that's Kurtis." We're like tapping one another. "That's Kurtis Blow." So he's like, "Okay, let me see what y'all guys got." So we went inside the booth and just started freestyling. So, he said, "All right." He said, "Just go downstairs for a little while. They got a game room across the street, and come back up in like a half an hour." So we came back within a half an hour. He had the bass line for Fat Boys, and he had the background singers. And he said, "Can y'all write something in this?" And that's the one thing about Kurtis Blow is that he always told us to write your own stuff. because publishing is really, really important for down the line, for your royalties and all that stuff. So me and Mark just went in there and pinned down some raps real quick. We did it like within maybe 20 minutes. And I mean, people were coming in and out that studio all night. So you had like Russell Simmons coming in there. Melly Mel was coming in there. Anybody who was somebody at that time, because Charlie knew so many people. Our manager knew so many people. They were just coming in and see what was going on. So after we did the Fat Boy song, that was completed, he said, you guys got to have a B-side. So, we didn't really know anything about B-sides and all that kind of stuff. So he said, I noticed that when you guys always rap, like one of you guys would, amp the other guy up and be saying stuff like stick 'em. He said, what is that? I said, it's just something we use like stick 'em and, put it up, stick 'em, all that stuff when the other person is rapping. He said, y'all should make a song about stick 'em. I said, there's no such thing as stick 'em. It's just an ad lib. He said, yeah, use that as an ad lib. So Mark was like, okay, I know what you mean. Like, he said, okay, we're going to do it like this. He said, we're going to say, put it up, stick 'em, and you say, ha, 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 stick 'em. And at first I was like, that's stupid. And then Buff was like, no, I'm going to come in with the beat. I was like, oh, okay. So we wrote the rhyme and like, because it was a rhyme about Buff. And plus he wanted to introduce Buff on his own as a beatbox. So we wrote the rhyme real quick and it just took off. Like Kurtis was going crazy. You could see him in the other room just going crazy. We did it in one take. So we came out the booth. He was like, yo, you guys are going to be stars. We're like, yeah, right. So, we're still going to high school at this time. We're in our first year in high school. So we're just going back and, going to high school every day. And Buff is like, yo, we're going to be stars. I'm going to drop out. I'm dropping out of school. You're going to school. Because me and Buff went to the same school and Mark went to a different high school. So the record comes out on a Friday. And so from Friday to Sunday, the record is played like 3 times a day. And Saturday, by the time we got back to school Monday, it was like we were the freaking Jackson 5 or the Beatles. I mean, we were clamored. People that, I think I said this in the Unsung episode, people that wanted to beat the hell out of us on Friday were asking for an autograph Monday. Wow. Yeah, it went crazy. On the loudspeaker, the principal announced that the Fat Boys got a hit album. A hit record, and and congratulations to Disco 3 on their record, the Fat Boys, and people was turning around looking at it like, that's right there, I'm in the back of the classes like this and looking up like everybody's just staring at me. I'm like, oh man, it's crazy, And I can see, I'm looking at the back window and I'm seeing Buff just walking down the hallway, like 50 people behind him doing the beatbox. And I'm like, dude, you ain't going to class,
Like the Pied Piper or something.
Yeah, like Pied Piper. And then, like, he's enjoying this,
You guys were a part of one of the most successful early rap tours, the '84 Fresh Fest.
Fresh Fest, yeah.
What can you tell me about that tour? And was it true that Russell Simmons didn't want you to be a part of that tour at first?
No, he didn't, because Charlie had the connections. Russell looked at us like we only had one hit song. And what can we do? Why are we on the same stage with the Run DMC and Houdini and Kurtis Blow? Because he managed those guys. But Charlie had the connection to Swatch Watch. He had the connection to Sprite. So he said, well, if they're not on the tour, I'm pulling them. So you have no sponsor, you have no tour. So, Russell was like, all right, but they're going to go on first. So Charlie said, no, they're not going on first. They're going on right before the closing act, which even pissed them off even more. So, but he became cool with it after a while. At first, he was like, he wants the Run DMC brand to shine more than anything in hip hop at that time. And I think we were blocking that because we were coming up. We had the #1 song in New York, #1 song in Detroit, in Miami, all over these places. So when we was kind of a threat to his biggest act, which was Run DMC at the time. So, but Houdini was cool with it. Kurt was cool with it. And even Run DMC, we became really, really close friends with them after a while on tour. So we was, you know, everything just panned out pretty good. I mean, everybody took turns busting each other's asses on that tour. Houdini would kill people in certain cities. Run DMC would do their thing. We'd do our thing. Kurt would do his thing. So it was just it was competition, but it was friendly competition. You know what I mean?
What was your best memory, if you can remember, from that
Best
tour?
memory, Detroit. Detroit. Um, it was like nobody paid attention to anything that night except us. Like they just breezed through, like, oh, all right, we want to see the Fat Boys. And we came out there, and my road manager said one time he thought the balcony was just going to drop. He said that's how powerful that place was that night. And even DMC to this day said they never got their asses rocked so hard that night in Detroit. He said he still remember that like it was yesterday. Yeah, but there was certain, like I said, with certain cities. I can name a city in Baltimore where Houdini was probably the hottest thing on the planet that night. Nobody could touch him, you know. And you go to California, Run DMC was the hottest thing for that moment. Nobody can. So it was like we had different cities and different nights that we rocked each other. You know what I mean?
Did anything change from the '84 Fresh Fest to the '85 Fresh Fest?
Yeah, the lineup, Flash and the Furious 5 came on the second tour. But it wasn't Melly Mel, it wasn't Kid Creole. No, it wasn't Melly Mel, it wasn't Scorpio, it wasn't Cowboy. It was Kid Creole, Flash, Raheem, and they had two other members. And they had a dancer by the name of Larry Love. If anybody can remember him. They had a big song in New York called Larry's Dance. And yeah, so that's the only thing I mean, Kurt left the tour. Kurt left the tour after about 4 shows. Kurt was gone. He just up and left. He said the money wasn't right or something like that. But I don't know the story behind it. But I know he left the tour, so it was just us 4. And Nucleus wasn't on Jam on It. They made Jam on It. They wasn't on the second tour. But the second tour was more successful than the first tour. The first tour was more successful because of popularity. Second tour was bigger because of the sales of the tickets and the merchandise, you know. Because by then everybody knew who we were, everybody knew who Run DMC was and Houdini and so on and so forth.
You guys were one of the first groups to get a commercial on MTV.
Watch.
Kicking the door down for hip hop to be played on a show that was predominantly rock. What do you remember about that experience of seeing yourself on MTV for the first time?
My manager pushed for MTV. Everybody was pushing for MTV back then because you conquered BET. You know, you went there, you conquered that because it's playing your videos and your songs 24 hours a day. The big thing was to get on BET for that worldwide market, for that worldwide audience. And Russell and our manager was fighting like crazy to get on MTV. Of course, Run DMC were the first ones on there with Rockbox. So once we did the commercial, the Swatch Watch commercial, because our manager at the time was really good friends with the maker of Swatch Watch. So we had like bags of Swatch watches. I mean, I wish I would have kept them to this day, but we threw them away because we're like, these are not Rolexes and whatever. Get rid of this crap. So, but we did the commercial, and I remember shooting that commercial in Manhattan, and we did like maybe like 50 takes. And come to find out, those 50 takes they only used like maybe 2 seconds of it. But it was a big thing because everybody was like, "Oh, y'all doing commercials and all this stuff like that." And we didn't make a big thing out of it because it was Swatch Watch. We were like, "Well, it's just Swatch Watch. It's not JVC or nothing like that." So, you know. But we were so naive to a lot of things. We were just so humble about a lot of things as well. Like a lot of things that was presented to us, and a lot of things we were doing, we would just brush to the side and we're like, "It's not that big. It's not what you think it is," you know. Because we were behind the scenes that we seen everything that was going down while people was looking at it like, yo, that's huge. Like, it's not that big, trust me. You know? So,
right. How did you guys land roles in Crush Groove in '85?
Crush Groove came about, the writer, he came on tour with us. Well, he came on tour to look at Run DMC's performance because the movie was supposed to be based solely on Run DMC. So as he started looking at our performance and our interaction with one another, he was telling Warner Brothers Studio, you got to put these guys need to get bigger parts in this movie. I mean, these guys is crazy. I mean, they're fun loving. They're not just, they don't do things like crazy things. They do fun loving things. And so the studio was like, okay, well, we'll give them bigger parts in the movie. So once we started shooting the movie, Michael Schultz, who is the director of Car Wash and Kool, he was pushing for more parts in the movie every day. Like, he would give us a different thing to say in the movie, a different script and all this stuff. So we just got bigger and bigger parts in the movie, which enraged, once again, Russell Simmons. He was like, this movie ain't about damn Fat Boys movie. This is a Run DMC movie, you know. So we're like, you know, it's a hip hop movie. So, and the studios are more like, we can't make this movie too simple. If you want to push the hip hop envelope to the masses, you can't have this thing 100% serious. It's got to be some humor in it, got to be some fun in it. So that's what Michael Schultz is pushing for, because Run DMC was straight up serious and we were more the fun guys. So
right.
He was like, you know, I need to put you guys more in the movie, which was good for us. And plus, we shot the movie right in New York. So, you know, we just got up every morning, went to the set, and just did our parts, you know. I had fun. We had a lot of fun shooting that movie.
Best memory?
Best memory was probably Prince coming to the set, and me and Buff were horsing around as always on the set. And Buff had pushed me, you know, and I bumped right into Prince because he was there to check out Sheila E.'s performance. I bumped into Prince, and when I bumped into him, you know, Prince is a tiny guy. He's like,
right,
you know, 5 feet, little guy. And he kind of like just helped me up because I was almost falling. And when he did it, he kind of had this smirk on his face. He gave me a pat on the back. But his bodyguard, who was like 90 feet tall, you know, like weighed like 5,000 pounds, he gave me the death stare. Like, I was like, oh, sorry about that.
right.
That was funny. Plus the ciphers we had, you know, LL, Run always wanted a cipher. He always wanted, he said, let's battle. Let's battle? This is rap, you know?
Right.
So whoever raps better gets this, or whoever can out-rap me, I give him $100, that kind of stuff. I'm like, dude, nobody's trying to out-rap you, you know? So
right.
You know, that kind of stuff was cool. And LL just had this really, really arrogant freaking attitude on the set.
I can see that. I can see that.
Oh, my goodness, you know. Every day was either him and Buff almost getting into a fight, him and Jay almost getting into a fight. I mean, it's always something with that guy. But I mean, I understand now because he was trying to make his way into the circle, so to speak. So I guess he had to be like that.
You guys went on to record Big and Beautiful in '86, but it wasn't until '87 that you finally got your platinum plaque. How did that feel?
Big and Beautiful, we don't know how much it sold because we pretty much forfeited that album to the record label. We changed labels, went from Sutra to Polygram. And so we don't know how much that album sold to this day. Somebody said it panned out like around, they stopped the process of the album. And somebody said it panned out like around 800 to 900,000. So we don't know if we went platinum or not. But once we went to Polygram, we hit a home run out the ballpark with the Crushing album, and that went platinum within months. You know, so Big and Beautiful was probably one of our best albums, but it's probably one of our most down moments because at the time, because we had so much beef with the record label. Not us, it was our manager who wanted to get off the label, and he wanted to get Polygram to distribute and have Tin Pan Apple as the source, you know, the label that we were on. So it's kind of like what Mark said. He owned the label and he was the manager. So it's like, who do you go to when you're in trouble? You know, but it is what it is.
Can you remember the day that you guys got told that you would be starring in the movie Disorderlies? How did that come about?
Disorderlies movie came. How did that come? It was right after Crush Groove. It was after the success of Crush Groove. As far as our part, I mean, Crush Groove wasn't like it was like this $100 million movie at the box office. But it was so much talk around who stole the show in Crush Groove. It's like, yo, Fat Boys, they killed that movie. Yo, that group called the Disco 3, yo, they outshined everybody. So our manager sat us down one day and said, "Yo, because of your success in Crush Groove, Warner Brothers just offered you guys